Am I a homer? I've been called a homer a couple of times, and we know what happened to the people who said that. But am I a homer here? I think that the Astros can have the best pitching staff in all of baseball. A lot has to go right. There absolutely a lot has to go right. But you look at the depth that they have, and everybody's skinny now, by the way. Have you noticed that? Christian Javier, talking to the media today, said that he's 15 pounds lighter than where he was at last year, which is great because I was telling you guys last year Christian Javier looks a little pudgy. He looks a little pudgy, and that's not good when you have a pitch clock. Framber Valdez looks a little bit more in shape, too. I really think that the Astros had the Astros starting pitchers conditioning because of the pitch clock. Like, if you don't have as much time to regroup, you need to be in shape. It's more important. Collect your breath quicker. Be conditioned. And I think that was something the Astros did this offseason. But here's why I think they can have the best pitching staff in all of baseball. Justin Verlander, I don't need Verlander to be 2 years ago Cy Verlander. Just be who you were last year. Have a 3.25, 3.50 ERA. Make your 25 starts. I don't even need you to pitch the whole year. In fact, I don't think he's going to be on the Astros opening day roster because he's going to start the year on the IL. But just be solid. Like, that's all I need from you, Verlander. I don't need you to be a Cy Young winner. I don't need you to be the ace of the staff. Just be solid. Be a solid veteran. Be a guy who I can go to. You can give me 5-6 innings and you stay in the game. Framber Valdez, at his best, and hoping on wood that he's at his best, I believe that he can be a top 2, top 3 starter in the entire American League. He's capable of winning a Cy Young. That's how good Framber Valdez's stuff is. Framber, now the mental stuff comes into play. I think the pitch clock got to him last year, but in better shape. Christian Javier. I think Christian Javier was Brian's pick to be the bounce back candidate or whatever Brian said that he was.
I thought he's going to be the best pitcher on the staff.
Best pitcher on the staff. What if Brian's right? I think Brian's a smart lad. Maybe I don't say the nicest things about him on the air, but I'm just being silly. I think Brian's very, very smart. Brian thinks that Javier is capable of being the best starter on the staff. Then he could be the best starter on the staff. But he's proven that he can do it. We've seen Javier be the best Astro starter on the staff. Second half notwithstanding, wasn't very good in the second half. But again, capable. Hunter Brown takes that next step from being a rookie guy with a bunch of stuff who's still trying to put it all together. He puts it all together. He's really good. Jose Urquidy, he's solid. He's just, I think he's a good back into the rotation starter. If Jose Urquidy's your number 4 or 5 starter, I think you have a really good rotation. I think that J.P. France is his American parallel. I think that they're kind of the same type of pitcher. Different arsenal, but same type of pitcher. Number 4, number 5 in a rotation. If they are your number 4, number 5, then you have a chance to be really good. But there's also reinforcements on the way. If one of those pitchers isn't very good, okay, well, Lance McCullers and Luis Garcia are scheduled to come back in the summer. I just need one of those guys to be decent to take that other guy's spot. So you have 8 pitchers, hopefully, when summer rolls around. When you're looking at a playoff team, really you only have to fill 4 spots in your starting rotation, maybe even 3. Then you look at the bullpen, and I understand that there's holes to fill, but I think that there's actually some decent talent in these 4A starters. 4A relievers that could fill this bullpen. But where I'm really bullish is the back end. How can you not be? With Josh Hader, Ryan Presley, Brian Abreu. So you have 8 starters that I think have potential, and 6 of those 8 that have really high potential. The other 2 are really good back into the rotation guys. Get it to the 7th inning, and now you have the best trio in the back end of the bullpen. I think the Astros are going to have the best pitching staff in baseball this year. Am I a homer? 713-780-3776.
I don't think it's cut and dry. I think Atlanta's staff right off the top was the first one that came to my mind that could compete with the Astros. I think the biggest thing in the Astros' favor is, like you said, they have everything that you need because they have talent at the front end of the starting rotation, but they have depth to give you the back end of the starting rotation. Whoever doesn't make it could add to a bullpen that if all you're trying to do is figure out 2 or 3 spots in the middle of your bullpen because you have the best 3 guys at the back end of any team in baseball, that the only team conceivably, or one of the only teams, and the first one that came to my mind that it could try and compete with that kind of staff is Atlanta, because they have depth and they have veterans as well as young arms in their starting rotation. They've got some good pieces in the bullpen with Minter and Bummer. They've got a closer. So I think that they could compete with the Astros, but I don't think you're a homer. I think that legitimately those might be the 2 best staffs in baseball.
Realistic take, or am I being a homer? I love the Brave staff too, so not much pushback for me.
Yeah, I think it's a realistic take. I mean, you could certainly argue Fried and Strider at the top with the Braves better than the Astros front best 2, but I think the Astros in the depth of their starting rotation wins after that with
they
the Braves.
They still have Charlie F. and Morton, and they added Chris Sale.
Chris Sale was awful last year.
Chris Sale was awful,
but that might
Charlie,
be the perfect environment.
I like Charlie, but he's not the Charlie we saw here at this point. He's a guy whose ERA is going to be hovering around 4. Still a valuable starting pitcher, but I would take the Astros, 3 through 6 over the Braves 3 through 6, and no one has a better 7-inning guy in the league than Brian Abreu. So I think that also plays a big part in the Astros winning the conversation.
Now, where Atlanta could kind of, and to play devil's advocate here, where they could kind of sneak in is the middle relief. Because, like the Astros, I think that they have a deeper middle relief. There's not many teams in baseball that don't have a deeper middle relief other than the Astros. So, where I don't think the middle relief is that important for the Astros' postseason success, like once you get to the playoffs, look what the Rangers were throwing out every night in the bullpen. They rarely went to their middle relievers. Right. Once you get to the playoffs, you need like 3 guys. Those are your workhorses, and you're going to them each and every time. So, like, I think the Astros are capable of winning a World Series if no one outside of the big 3 in the back end of the bullpen steps up. But if the Astros are going to have the best ERA in all of baseball, their middle relief is going to have to be solid. Like, not great, but solid. You're going to need Rafael Montero to be second half Rafael Montero. Doesn't need to be 2 years ago Rafael Montero. Needs to be second half Rafael Montero. Is Seth Martinez going to be on this staff? If he is, he needs to be 2 years ago Seth Martinez, not last year Seth Martinez. Souza needs to be the guy that would pitch for the Astros for the 6 games or whatever it was, not the guy who was waived 3 times before that. Maybe you need it doesn't have to be both of them, but Dylan Coleman, Forrest Whitley, one of those has to be a guy who can give you an ERA of 350. Nothing special, just 350. So I don't think that the Astros need those guys in order to win a World Series. I do think they need those guys if they're going to finish top 2, top 3 in baseball in ERA.
Yeah, and again, the dog days of the regular season are totally different than the playoffs because I agree with you. I mean, we know that starters, the leash is a lot shorter in the playoffs, and with the back end of the bullpen that they have, I mean, when you look at what the Rangers did with Chapman and Leclerc and company, the way they went about it, and you say, well, the Astros can do that, but they can do it way better with the 3 guys they got. You're in a great spot. But in the dog days of 162, you're going to have guys that have to eat up innings and do a lot of dirty work, and that's where at least in the middle of the season, the middle of the bullpen has to at least come through with, especially Montero's got to try and keep that ERA south of 4 and try and be like you said, more the second half. And then figure out between the veterans and if you really believe that one of the young guys can step up, look at them. But I think they're going to lean heavily on the veterans in the middle.
Yeah, I'm with Jeremy. I don't think the Astros need one of the middle relief guys to step up and have a better than expected season to win the World Series. But I do think they need them, as you pointed out there, Joel, to get through the dog days of summer and to be in a spot where you're talking about, having a bye in the first round of the playoffs and not having to be in one of the play-in series. So I think that's important. But one of the points in the Astros' favor, and it kind of feels like deja vu because we were here last year bragging about the Astros' depth, and then a month into the season, the depth was completely gone. But how many teams are in a spot where pitchers the caliber of Ronaldo Blanco and JP France, who guys we hope never see the field for the Astros as starting pitcher, are your 7th and 8th guy?
Exactly, and
that sort of depth I think is unparalleled in Major League Baseball.
Say that you're 9th guy if you're looking at August. Now it's hard to forecast that, and then you can throw in Spencer Arrighetti, who the Astros are also bullish on. The Astros last year had 3 significant injuries to their starting rotation. Lance McCullers, who never made it back. That was significant to their Major League Baseball rotation. Luis Garcia, who tore his UCL pretty early, missed the rest of the year. And then Jose Urquidy the very next day had that shoulder thing again that he missed a good chunk of the rest of the season. The Astros had 3 critical injuries to their starting rotation and still finished 8th in all of Major League Baseball in ERA. They were 8th. They were behind Baltimore, which Baltimore added Corbin Burns. I'm kind of surprised Baltimore was that high. They did it mostly with their bullpen, but their big closer's out for the year. Minnesota was ahead of them. They returned most of their guys except for Sonny Gray, pretty big loss. Tampa was ahead of them. Tampa returns almost everybody but Glasnow, and Glasnow barely pitched for them last year. Toronto was actually 4th in ERA, which I think was more smoke and mirrors. Seattle, which they're going to be legit. Seattle's going to be really good pitching staff-wise. San Diego is 2, which they lose Blake Snell, they lose Josh Hader. And then number 1 was Milwaukee, who lost Burns, and then Woodruff is out for the year.
Right. And Toronto lost Hicks. And Toronto, their starting pitching was like musical chairs. I think that's the biggest thing where the depth plays with the dog days plays such a big and critical role, because when you're going to go to a 6-man rotation, when you're looking to get some of your starters a little less wear and tear, when you have guys that are interchangeable, when injuries are inevitably going to happen, the Astros have a luxury that I don't think any other team in baseball come close to, in terms of, it's one thing to say I'm going to bring someone up that's going to eat up some starts for me, but you look at what France did a year ago, but understand that at a certain point, you're going to have potentially 8 starters to choose from that you can just sit there and plug and play that are better than a lot of the teams in this league, their 4th and 5th starters in some cases when you start thinking about McCullers and Garcia. That's a fantastic spot to be in because that depth means something.
And if your starters stay healthy, some of those 7th, 8th starting pitchers can then be some of your answers in middle relief.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the middle relief guys don't step up, you have some potential alternatives without even making a trade.
Yeah, you could go Luis Garcia, Hunter Brown.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trying to limit Luis Garcia, his first, little few months back from Tommy John. Maybe Hunter Brown is still pitching well, but is not going deep into games. He's got an ERA hovering around 4.
He's been a guy that can come out of the pen and give you an inning.
He's more, to me, of a mop-up guy. Like, he's not a weapon out of the bullpen, I don't feel. Whereas Hunter Brown, to me, can be a major weapon out of the bullpen.
You said that with Urquidy because of his stuff? Yeah. I get that.
Like, I like strikeout in my bullpen. Adrian, honestly, guys like Belak and Seth Martinez can fill that role. Middle relief, 350, sub-4 ERA. Astros need to utilize these guys. I could see Belak making the team as a long reliever.
Belak dominated the Rockies
That's true,
last
he
year.
did.
I could see him being a long reliever breaking camp.
Really?
Yeah, I could.
I think
Seth mop-up guy.
I would trust
big,
Seth
down
Martinez to be my mop-up long reliever
Well,
guy
I think
before
he'd be
Belak.
more. I think Martinez would be more of your middle reliever. Like, he'd be higher in the pecking order than Belak.
When you say stuff, that's what makes me think that, and I agree with you that you got to have a more dominant pitch, and in most cases, a above average fastball. That's why I would think Martinez would be more the guy that would be more mop-up.
Well, I think Martinez has better stuff than Belak.
Oh, I agree, but that's what I said. I don't want to see Belak anymore. I
No,
want to see other options.
Belak is your mop-up guy. Like,
I
he's
think
the guy
Blanco's
eating.
the guy for one inning that has the
Right.
kind of stuff.
I think we're talking about two different roles. Like, I'm talking about Brandon Belak whenever you're up by 5, down by 5, and instead of using your dudes, you have a guy eat 2 innings. Like, that's the perfect role for Brandon Belak. And because I don't think Verlander is going to make the team, or not make the team, I think he's going to be on IL.
Now, that'd be a hot take.
I think he's going to be on the injured list on opening day. That's where I think Belak could probably be on the Astros opening day roster, be there for 2 weeks, let Verlander get back, and he's your last guy in the pitching staff where he's only pitching in mop-up duty.